I really love Pokemon Nuzlocke videos, and I really love fishing in Final Fantasy XIV. So when I got to the end of A Realm Reborn during my free trial of the critically acclaimed I decided to embark on the first Fishermon journey to visit every fishing spot in the base game. But this isn't actually a Pokemon game. There are no fights to overcome and Pokemon to lose. Instead, this is an Artlocke. An Artlocke is a variant on a Nuzlocke based around drawing each Pokemon you catch. It's actually a testament to our cyclical natures, since the original Nuzlocke was documented as a comic, and for a few years it was a popular trend in artist circles. I planned a 12-hour event to catch fish in as many different fishing spots as I could. After the first day, I continued 4 hours at a time for an eventual 24 non-consecutive hours. In classic Nuzlocke style, I could only get one encounter, cast, per route, fishing spot, then I gave each of them a nickname and drew them. I also decided to take it upon myself to give them a typing for good measure. Of course, every Pokemon journey must begin with the professor giving us our starter, our companion who would stand by our side till the journey's end. In this case, a minion. I chose 3 thematically appropriate minions and had Twitter to decide between the Major General, the Dolphin Calf, and the Small Shell Crab. You might notice this omits any minion you can obtain directly through fishing, which was intentional, in case we managed to catch any of them on our journey. Surprising no one, the Major General won in a landslide, and we were off to our first spot, Limsa Lominsa Lower Decks. For this challenge, I set myself the rules that I could only use the versatile lure, since it has a chance of catching almost everything. The closest thing to replicating an actual random encounter in tall grass. On top of that, if I caught the same fish multiple times, I got to cast again. But after 5 attempts at the same fishing spot, it counts as a failed encounter, and I had to move on. I was fully expecting the most plain fish possible for our first catch, but instead we caught Cory, the pure water coral butterfly.
Coral butterfly. A colorful saltwater fish commonly found in the warm seas around the island of Bianak. Not known for its flavor, the wavekin is most often put on display in aquariums.
The lower decks is all one fishing spot, so after the first catch, I was off to Middle Lenosha. Before I started, I planned a route that would take me across the entire realm with as minimal backtracking possible, all without teleporting, making this a true Eorzean road trip, and a chance to see corners of the world that I may never have seen before. First up was Middle Lenosha, where I caught Peach the Princess Trout, Scrimpo the Finger Shrimp, Gary the Gudgeon, Crisp the River Crab, and of course, Transrites the Chub.
We have caught our first 6 fish. From here on, we need to start replacing them.
This brought my catches to 6, which meant we had a full squad. Throughout our journey, a lucky few would be elevated to be one of my Fishermon team, and the rest resigned to wait in my bag. With a full party, every catch from here on meant deciding if they would replace one of our existing team. Amazingly, our next catch, Flop the Harbor Herring, actually took Crisp's spot on account of their water normal typing and impressive 8.8 ilm length. Charging ahead, we cut over to Western Lenosha and caught our first oyster, Clement the Rothlite oyster. And we had our most notable encounter of the run so far, our first mooch. In Final Fantasy XIV, there are certain fish that if you catch a large-sized specimen, you can use it as bait for a bigger fish. There are skills you can normally use to increase the likelihood of that happening, but by my rules, while I do count mooching as the same encounter, we still have to do it full odds.
Another harbor herring, but we can mooch it. Ooh, alright. Okay.
Meaning I need to luck out on catching a large-sized fish, and it has to also be a fish of the variety that can be mooched with, all as the first catch. And even with all that stacked against us, in Brewer's Beacon, we were rewarded with Shronk, the water-dark ogre barracuda, clocking in at a massive 44 ilms, making it our biggest fish so far, over 4 times the length of our previous record.
Ogre barracuda. A large saltwater wavekin that roams the sea in small schools, preying on smaller fish such as anchovies or sardines. Its name comes from fishers who claim that landing an ogre barracuda is more difficult than slaying an actual ogre.
We of course immediately added them to the team, replacing Flop.
A razor clam? I've never caught a razor clam before. What is this? Razor clam. A long bivalve mollusk, most commonly found buried in the beaches of islands situated in the Rotano Sea. They are known to leap out of their burrows when surprised or agitated. I have no idea what I'm drawing. What is this? How do I... What? Razor clam could have a tiny knife poking out of the middle part. I mean, it could. That's true. Alright, little knife. Let's get a little knife in here.
Western Lenosha continued to be eventful as we made our way over to the Isle of Umbra, catching a piece of red coral named Carl that measured over 30 ilms and earned itself the water rock type. And then immediately we caught another water dark fish in the form of the 33.3 ilm Levi the Sea Devil.
Sea Devil. Legends tell of giant sea devils emerging from the sea to wrap their many arms around ships and drag them to the abyss. This seems impossible today, as the largest catches in recent memory are little more than a yalm across.
We always knew our team was going to have a heavy typing overlap with all the water types, but now we're also doubling up on one of our few off types. But I really can't say no to the Sea Devil without something to replace it. Before leaving Western Lenosha, we catch another oyster, this time a black lip oyster. We named them Pearl, and after heated debate, eventually decide that they are water ghost.
You best start believing in ghost stories, Miss Turner. You're in one.
We also catch our longest little danger noodle, Slimby, the 52.4 ilm Lavender Remora. Both of these two make it onto the team after a short debate over who to bench. We continue into and through Upper Lenosha West, getting 2 uneventful encounters,
Four-eyed fish do not actually have 4 eyes.
and flying past the sea serpent skeleton.
We have to say hi to our giant sea serpent thing, rumored to be Talos, presumably a massive little Talos. Dark bass, that's new. I mean, it's gotta be dark type, right? Yeah, like, it turns out, water type, obviously the most common in fish. Dark type is the second so far.
Until reaching Outer Lenosha.
Ooh, this place is lovely. Someone just lives up here? The Hermit's Hovel. Can I go visit the Hermit? Will they give me a side quest in my Pokemon adventure? This Hermit's Hovel seems abandoned. I'm gonna fish your fish. There's no fish here. This is not the long climb. Where is this then?
Where we found Molly the Ignis Snail, who not only became our first snail, but also our first fire type, a must-have for our team's hypothetical type coverage. But when fishing in Northwest Bronze Lake...
Oh, hey! It's the 789th Order. I remember you guys. The kobolds. Nice. Anyway. Don't mind me. I'm just gonna get myself a fish.
I accidentally canceled my catch. As per my rules, this counts as a failed encounter, to prevent intentional canceling to influence your catches.
Team's looking pretty good. I hit the wrong button. Chat, I need a ruling. I need a ruling. No canceling's allowed. I can't willfully cancel to get a different result, but I accidentally hit the wrong button. Did I miss? Is that like accidentally knocking out your mon? I think I just failed to catch.
As such, I'm forced to mark my first loss. Pressing on, we get 2 more encounters in Upper Lenosha East.
A fairy bass. We don't have a fairy bass. And obviously, to go with our dark bass that's water dark, the fairy bass has to be water fairy. It's perfect. It's like they knew. It's like they knew. Fairy bass. A common freshwater fish found in rivers and lakes in almost every corner of Eorzea. A staple of many of the realm's small folk. That is a terrible description. Really? That's it? Why is it called a fairy bass? I think this is a normal type. This is disappointing. This is a normal water.
Then make our way over to Eastern Lenosha, which has 11 more fishing spots. This lands us our first water fighting, Lovely the Mitten Crab, and our first water dragon, Big Tony the Leafy Sea Dragon. Next, we slip through the northern section of Lower Lenosha, picking up 2 more encounters, including our first water grass, Miriam the Lamp Marimo, before skirting into mist to catch a 50.2 ilm Bianak Bream named Benny. Then back out to finish Lower Lenosha South, which most notably contains Snipperdoodle, the water rock pebble crab, and Horsefant. Horsefant doesn't make it onto the team, but I just had to mention them for their name alone. Probably the best name suggested in chat over the entire challenge. Lower Lenosha then connects directly to Limsa Upper Decks, giving us our final encounter in Lenosha, which took all 5 of our casts before not catching a duplicate.
You know what? You know what? I'll take it. I'll take some Malm Kelp over a total miss. Not super happy about it, but I'll take it.
Just barely landing a successful encounter, making Whelp the Malm Kelp our first completely non-water type, seeing as it's literally just kelp. Since this is a teleportation-free journey across the realm, I caught the next airship headed to Gridania and took stock of my team. Shrunk, the water-dark ogre barracuda. Lovely, the water-fighting mitten crab. Molly, the water-fire ignis snail. Big Tony, the water dragon leafy sea dragon. And still with us from the original squad, Scrimpo the waterbug finger shrimp, and Trans Rights, the pure water chub. Landing in Gridania, we carry on with 2 encounters in New Gridania and 2 more in Old Gridania before heading off into the East Shroud, where we get another mooch opportunity and catch Midnight the Fall Jumper, which surprisingly turned out to be another water dragon type.
So when I first set out to do this, I was worried that we're gonna get too many duplicates and things are gonna prove a problem. It's large, I can mooch! This counts as our first encounter here. Ooh, I'm excited! These are always like the really exciting ones. The mooch opportunity is so rare. On top of, you know, anything else that makes a fish rare. The Fall Jumper. Fall Jumper. Fall jumpers are born with an inherent tendency to swim against the current. When they arrive at rapids or falls, they have no option but to leap out of the water in an attempt to continue upstream. Some Ishgardians believe this ability was granted to the fish when a drop of blood from a wounded dragon fell into a river in Kurthis and was swallowed by a trout.
This was followed up by catching a 6.4 ilm Alamegan fighting fish we named Wizorb, which was of course water fighting. Looping down through South Shroud, we learned some truly horrifying things about nature.
Bonny tongue. A single flat tooth on the bottom of this ancient freshwater species mouth gives the bunny tongue its name. A climbing perch. That's new. That's new to me entirely. Climbing perch. Though not amphibious like the mud skipper, the climbing perch will jump from black shroud rivers onto low-lying tree branches in order to catch flies, beetles, and sometimes even small birds. Wow. Heck yeah, you do that. Interesting.
Then we sneak through Central Shroud to make a catch in the Lavender Beds, then back out to get our Central Shroud encounters proper, which unfortunately included 2 fails on account of catching 5 duplicates each. Looping up and through the North Shroud, we mark one last fail before proceeding into Kurthis. The first stop here is Kurthis River, which seems to be warm enough to still have duplicates in it before we get a taste of all the weirdness Kurthis has to offer. In Witch Drop, we catch Popeye the Rift Sailor.
Rift Sailor. The Rift Sailor uses the light elastic webbing between its etherically charged wings to catch the roiling winds of the Sea of Clouds and glide across the rifts. Spying one dart across your path is often regarded as an omen of good fortune.
And in the Sea of Clouds, we find Curtis the Cloud Cutter.
Cloud Cutter. The swiftest inhabitants of the Sea of Clouds. Cloud Cutters will fly straight in a single direction for moms before quickly turning at some unthinkable angle and darting off in another direction. On rare occasion, they have been known to puncture the armor plating of airships. Wow! Okay.
Both water flying on account of them being our first and second skyfishing catches, fully soaring through the clouds below Kurthis. The rest of our Kurthis encounters were relatively mundane despite the icy climbs.
The sheer ferocity of the angry pike has inspired many a hedge knight to take the Wavekin as his sigil. That's rad. That is so cool.
And after looping around Kurthis, we head back down to Mordona.
We have 30 fishing spots remaining. So, if we want to do it today, that is 8 minutes per fishing spot, which is dramatically less than what we've done in the past. So,
where we catch our very first water poison type, Wilma the Sludge Skipper.
Sludge Skipper. Similar to its cousin, the Mud Skipper, the Sludge Skipper can also survive outside water for several bells. The Sludge Skipper, however, is at home in highly polluted pools where other creatures would likely perish. It's a poison type! Yeah, we did it. Okay, cool.
Mostly, though, we marked down 3 more failed encounters.
If I miss 2 more encounters, I'll have drawn less than 100. I'll have caught less than 100 fish in this entire thing. Which, I mean, that's still a big number, but like, oof.
When I planned this route ahead of time, I wasn't factoring in any kind of encounter routing. I was leaving it all up to chance, and that meant some of these holes only had rare catches left. As such, I couldn't find anything new in the allotted 5 attempts, and had to move on. Mordona connects us to the northern Tonalon, and we make it to the final stretch, one that I was particularly excited for. While you might think that the desert region might not have a lot of choice for fishing, it is home to the only dune fishing spots in A Realm Reborn. A perfect chance to get some more weird catches for type coverage.
Garpike! Yeah! Oh, look at this friend. Garpike, a hard-scaled freshwater fish native to southern Eorzea. The garpike is mentioned in the famous Remde Codex, where it is described as a 30-yom monstrosity with 200 teeth, and arms like a goboos.
Amazingly, most of Tonalon's fishing spots are still normal water. Creeks, rivers, ponds, all cutting through desert landscapes, but still. Down from northern Tonalon, we make our way through central Tonalon, over into eastern Tonalon, and further down to southern Tonalon.
The Bone Cleaner. Bone Cleaner, a freshwater snail that survives solely on the carrion of animals that get caught and perish in the sucking mud of swamps and marshes. Bone Cleaner's a badass! What?
That journey awarded us 4 more fails, but in southern Tonalon, we catch the intriguing water poison plaguefish Typhus.
Plaguefish. This variety of freshwater fish has the queer habit of wearing the skulls of small drowned animals, though it is not known exactly why. Some believe that they are used to intimidate other plaguefish who seek to claim their territory. Others believe that they are messengers of Tal, beckoning lost souls to the afterlife. They're a psychopomp. Cool.
And the water-faring scooter, the clown loach, before we reach the dune fishing spots.
Clown loach. Bright patterns, similar to a clown's motley, cover this small freshwater fish from head to tail.
The Sigoli Dunes and Sigoli Desert locations landed us entirely non-water types. A ground-flying storm rider named Amelia,
Storm Rider. These sand-dwelling fish will skip across the desert until they are fortunate enough to stumble across a sandstorm, in which case they will spread their fins and ride the storm great distances.
and a pure-ground sand bream named Sandy.
Sand bream, a tiny sand-dwelling fish which can spend its whole life out of the water, gathering the moisture it needs to survive from the trace amounts of dew which seep through the desert sands each dawn.
All that was left now was to sneak back across central Tantalon to make our way into Ul'dah, which turned out to be completely barren, the only major city to not have a single fishing spot. Then exit through the Goblet, which we once again failed to catch a new fish in. Exiting into western Tantalon, we made the trek all the way to Cape Westwind.
Hey, people are here. Maybe there's a window. Play ice, a bottom-feeding flat fish. The plaice is most commonly found blending into the sands, covering the seafloor near the Isle of Umbra.
Before ending our journey at Vesper Bay with one more anticlimactic failure.
This is our last one, actually. This is actually our last. Harbor herring. Yep. Whew.
I stepped onto the ship headed back to where I started, Limsa Laminsa, lower decks, and the Fisherman's bottom. After I was done, I wanted to give the proper Pokemon treatment to a team of 6. My Hall of Fame team, if you will. These weren't the exact last 6 I had showing on my team during the challenge. Instead, I took the time to give it some real thought, as if I was actually building a team. When I had my team, I redrew them all in my best attempt at the Pokemon style, taking liberties where I thought appropriate to make them Pokemon, not just cartoon animals. What was really fun about this is how I have all the sizes recorded, so I could properly render them to scale with each other and with my Final Fantasy XIV character. Just look at the size of my beautiful boy Shrunk, the original, still with me to the end. I may not have had to overcome the fights and the losses of a true Nuzlocke, but I treasured this team and all the fish I got to surround myself with on my way here.
This whole event I want to edit down into like a 30-minute video or something. That's daunting. I've never done something like that before. I don't know what to expect, but well. Yeah, I mean that's me. I don't know. I'm rambling now because I don't want to end the stream.